Hey everybody, what's up? You are back for another episode of Owning Up, and I'm excited about this interview because well, first of all, I am on and serve on a military family advisory board with this guest, Megan Harless, for New Res, and we just recently were on a trip together and we had so many great conversations. I was like, girl, we need to get together and finally make this all happen. So here we are. And we've been kind of chatting back and forth about what we wanted this episode to look like for you guys, the military spouse who's running a business, who's moving all the time and doing all the things, and how to make it the most beneficial and easiest PCS with your business. So today we have Megan Harless. Moving your business doesn't have to mean starting over. Today we're talking about the money, the resources, and the strategy. And she is the founder and owner of PCS Like A Pro. So Megan, welcome, fellow mill spouse. I feel like I just saw you the other day. Tell us more about yourself and what PCS Like A Pro is and who does it serve?
Yeah, absolutely. First, thank you so much for having me here and letting me be a part of this. And yes, I feel like I just saw you like a day ago, but it's been a couple weeks. So I'm Megan Harless. I founded PCS Like a Pro several years ago. I say several. It's probably I don't even know now, closer to 5, 6 years ago. But it was founded from my advocacy work in PCS reform and trying to improve the PCS process for our service families and to try to address those systemic issues that we see year after year and to make the process a little bit easier for our families. And so the my business and all my resources really serve the military community, whether you're PCSing for the first time or you're PCSing for the 10th time. There's always changes in the regulations and the policies. There's always something new coming out, or maybe you haven't PCSed in a while. And so it's resources that are there to help the families be able to be more educated on the process and to feel more empowered to advocate for themselves on their move as well.
Yeah, feeling seeing is one of those things where you feel, and I talk about this a lot, like military life makes us feel like we don't have any control over
Mhm.
anything, right? And so when we do have a PCS, right? Um, what are some things we can do within our business or within our family to control more of it, make it seamless, and get the most out of our benefits? Because sometimes we feel like we can't say anything, we can't ask questions, right? Because there are policies or procedures or things like that. And I know sometimes when I've PCS, I felt like, oh, is this normal? Is this not
Mhm.
normal? Are the people experiencing? And I feel like what you've done really, really well is say things that a lot of us are going through that we're not having conversation over because they're just like, oh, they're moving for free. Just shut them up. They're making a little bit of money here and there. And so there shouldn't be any complaints. But I feel like there's always ways to make improvements, to make things better. And I feel like you are definitely doing that. Tell me more about what made you passionate about really doing this and helping military spouses with moves. Because here's the thing, so many times I will say for myself, you find a problem, you're like, nobody's really working on this, right? And then we volunteer ourselves to do it. Like nobody asked us, but we are called to do it based off of experience.
Yeah, so I call this accidental advocacy, and I say that all the time because again, it wasn't something I was going to look for, right? But it's a situation we all go through, and it's a common problem that we all kind of experience too. You feel like that negative PCS experience is like the rite of passage into like the military life, and so going back to 2018, at that time, 2018 felt like a really bad year for moving. It felt like, things weren't showing up at all. And if they did, they were splintered to pieces. And so at the time, 2018 just felt like a bad year. We know 2020, we had COVID. And then like this year, we had the GHC. And so we've had some rough years since then. But 2018 at that point felt like a really bad year. And so I ran a blog site at the time, back when blogs were huge. I ran a blog site that shared the military life from the spouse perspective. It was something we didn't really hear or see a lot of. Everything was geared about the service member, but we didn't really talk much about like behind the scenes and in the home and what the spouse and the family was going through. And so I wrote this open letter turned change.org petition that took off and went viral. And got the attention of Congress and Transcom and the moving industry. And so that's how all of this kind of started. My husband was deployed at the time, so I didn't need anything else on my plate. But when I saw when I mean, I had 3 kids. I was involved in all of the things. It wasn't like I was like, what more can I add to be that person? It was not that at all. Like when this took off, I was just like, are you kidding me? Like, there was that little moment of like, oh gosh, this might actually take some time now. And so like once things started going and I started hearing from all of the spouses and all of the service members and seeing that the issues that we were having, it wasn't tied to one moving company, it wasn't tied to one service branch, it wasn't tied to one installation, but it was across the board. And now that we had the attention of Congress, we had the attention of Transcom, there was a part of me that had like this, like, okay, sense of responsibility. We gotta do something. We gotta make sure positive change actually happens. And so that's kind of how everything kind of kicked off. And as I went down this process, one of the things I discovered is that there was a really big lack of education in what the regulations were and what the policies were and how to use them and how to get help if you needed help. And so PCS Like a Pro is kind of born around that idea of let's educate the community on what it is they really need to know to be able to have that better experience. We may not be able to control the packer that shows up and is like, doesn't care about their job. We might be able to a little bit, but we now know the regulations where we can stop them. We can ask for help. We can contact somebody to make them aware of what is happening, to make it be a little bit not as cumbersome as what it could be. And so then the flip side of that was also being able to educate the moving industry as to what it is we go through. Like by the time you show up in our house, like we're at the end of our emotional rope. And so like we've had to find new schools, a new house, a new community, new sports teams, new medical providers, new everything. So when you show up and it's a day late, or you show up and we see our couch fall off the back of the truck and we break down crying, like there's a reason to that. And I need you to understand, like, we're not just this crazy emotional person, but we're just at the end of our rope where we're tired and we're worn out, and we need you to understand and we need you to care a little bit more.
Like before, it's just been very transactional, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like just very transactional, taking the human aspect out of it when there are lots of humans involved. But I want to go back to something that you were talking about earlier when you said, in the beginning, about you saw that there was this issue and you had no prior travel experience with, like you, sometimes I feel like when we're starting a business or any kind of advocacy, we are so judgmental to ourselves, like, oh, I don't know enough, right? But you're like, I might not know enough, but I'm going to figure it out. Something's got to be done. And I love that that's like not even part of your background. You were like, I have 3 kids.
So
right? Like, I just think
so I'll say a little bit not part of my background. So being a prior military service, I was an Army officer, and so I was a transportation officer. And so the Army taught me how to move people and equipment in the military. So it wasn't completely foreign to me, but a lot of it, like, I didn't understand the moving industry side of things and how that kind of operated and worked. I had my experience from PCSing, but being an advocate, being able to talk to DoD senior leaders, being able to get their attention, being able to connect with them, like, that was a big foreign thing. And so then when I sat down and I had these conversations with generals and their staff, like, and Congress folks, like, that was a like what, like, I sat there, what am I doing? Can I do this? Like, do I know how to do this? Like, what do I need to do this? Like, I'm just Megan with 3 kids. Like, what is happening? And so it was that I had a little bit of knowledge, but I didn't feel, and I think we all feel that way at the beginning. We don't feel equipped to be able to make change and to do something. And it's just one of those things. It's like, being a spouse, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out along the way.
And piecemeal it, and it'll come to us. I love that. It's so if you're facing any imposter syndrome or doubting yourself and you're thinking of advocating or starting a business in any way, this should be a freaking green flag and inspiration for you.
Just do it.
Just do it. All right, so let's dive in because I know our listeners are wondering. Let's talk about money, reimbursement. So listen, I didn't even know I could get money for my business. The first time I moved my business from Ohio to Maryland. Like, I had no idea. I had zero clue. And so let's talk a little bit about reimbursement. What can a military spouse actually get reimbursed for when they're moving their business?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that you can be reimbursed for. I think the most common one we all hear is your licenses, your certifications, that if you have to get those transferred to a state or redo them, you can get reimbursed an amount for that. But I think what a lot of people miss out on is that you can also be reimbursed, like if you have to have your equipment moved to another location. And it's like specialty equipment. So like you need to get it crated, you need to get a third party service to help move it or to handle it. Like you can be reimbursed for that. The permits, the registrations, if you have to have stuff inspected, technology costs. So if you have to like upgrade or update that because you're moving to someplace where it requires a little bit more, like there's all sorts of things that you can be reimbursed for and that the military will reimburse you for, because they finally have come around a couple years ago and realized like spouses have businesses and spouses remote work a lot because of the nature of what our lifestyle is, and they realized that they needed to do something to kind of support our community. And so there's just a whole lot of things that you can be reimbursed for.
Right. So the licensing that you just talked about, that is the license reciprocity. So
Yes.
it depends on the state too. Not all states are part of it. As far as I'm reading right now, it just says some states offer that right now. So make sure that you are looking that up. And we're also going to put a lot of links in our show notes as well. So if you're listening to this and you're trying to write it down or like pull over to the side of the street, or please don't text and type this in. We are going to put these show notes, okay? Put this information in our show notes. And that happened just a few years ago. So even all these years, all the issues that we've been having, people are just getting this ball rolling. Then there is also reimbursements from branches of service. So not only can you claim some of your moving expenses through your regular claim that you are doing within the DPS system, but once you get to your state that you're getting PCS to, if you've moved your business, there are other things that you can claim, and we're going to put those show notes in here too. But there's you can get up to $1,000 reimbursement. So these are other things that you can claim. For example, if you have to close your business and re-register it in another state, which I keep yelling from the mountaintops, can we get a universal LLC? Like, what is happening? Like, if you're listening to this, can military spouses get a universal LLC? Because we have to shut our business down and restart it up in the new state. And a lot of times that costs money. So because of that, a lot of branches of service offer reimbursement programs by branch. So like the Army will reimburse $1,000 for business costs and $1,000 for licensing. There is the Navy, the same exact thing. Air Force, same thing. Marines, they all will help you up to $2,000. So keep in mind, like whatever your desk, your office equipment, things that you're using, that you can claim that, but also know that you can claim your licensing, your re-registering your business, getting your certifications, things like that as well. So that is always something I always like to share with spouses, because they don't even know that. And I feel like
Yes.
you really have to dig for that information. Like, why is it so hard to find this information?
It's not a common thing. One of the things I've discovered with the military is that if it costs them money, they don't want to share it.
Yeah.
Because it comes, it's
Yeah.
a paid thing, it's a budget thing. They want to be able to use money for other things. And so if it's something that's going to cost the military money, they don't really want to share it, which is why we're here, which is why we do what we do.
Oh, because I
Yeah.
think if you invest in the military spouse, they're going to be happy with the military. And so therefore their member will maybe re-enlist again. Or you know what I mean? Like, you would think that investing in the quality of our life and making this easier and giving us the money we need to continue to make money so our member can be happy, you would think they would. I mean, I don't know.
We need a whole nother show to discuss the taking care of families
Right.
and happiness in the home and how that leads to retention and all that. We need a whole nother show for that. But one of the things that, talking about relocating our businesses, I want to make sure the listeners hear, is that it's specifically, I'm going to read this verbatim because I've got it here, because I want to make sure I don't get it wrong. But those expenses that you can claim for those business reimbursements. So the spouse you have had to have the business during the current duty station or the previous one. So wherever you're at right now, you got to have that business established there. And then you're moving it to the next location. So you can't just leave Texas not having a business and show up in Kansas and be like, oh, I'm going to have a business now, and then try to claim those expenses. You have to have it prior to that move. And then like the costs have to be incurred during that process. So those, now you're leaving Texas and now you need the new license, you need the new Kansas registration and all of that. So it's important to make sure you understand that it's a business that you currently have at one duty station and you're moving it to another duty station.
Right. So that also takes us to the documentation. Like, what are some key documents that we need to keep on hand to make sure we can claim all this?
Yes. So each service has their own verification form. So for the Army, because we're an Army family, I know it's standard form 1034, which is the public voucher for purchases and services other than personal. So that's where you are going to list your business expenses that you had for your move. Every service has their own version of that. You also need your orders. If you have a license or a certification that was used at your current or previous duty station, you need to be able to have a copy of that as well. You need a copy of that new state license or certification. You need proof of any fee payments that you had. So if you had to register a business in a new state and there's always that, fee that you have to pay to the Secretary of State for things, you need that invoice receipt. And then you also need a copy of your marriage certificate. I know that sounds really outdated because it's like, I'm in Deere is listed as his spouse. Why? But they need that to be able to prove that you are married to that service member and that you are the spouse that is relocating that business.
How common mistakes that cost people money?
Documentation of your expenses. That people, that we get all these receipts and we don't know what we need to keep. We get all these invoices. When you pay something online and you get the email receipt to it and it gets lost in your inbox and you don't know where to find it, you don't know where to go, and you're just like, well, it was only $100. It's not that much. Listen, those all add up. Like they add up to be a lot of money. And so my biggest suggestion for that is that you have a folder in your inbox, and I know Google does it. I don't know if other email sites do it. You can set up like a trigger thing for it to where like if something comes in and it's from Kansas State Attorney or Secretary of State, or it says invoice or it says receipt in it, it automatically goes into that folder. So then you've got it all right there and you can search through that one. But the biggest thing I see is that spouses lose those invoices, they lose those receipts, and so they're not claiming all of their expenses that they can claim.
Yeah, and those little settings, those are AI. You need to be using them as business owners, and this is a great way to alleviate that stress from like, oh, where's this receipt? Where's that receipt? One thing that we always did is I created like a folder in Google, and then I had each thing in there. And so my husband, as he got things, he would just plug it, drop it in too. And it is a team effort. I feel like sometimes when I speak to families, it's either the member doing it or the spouse. It really needs to be a team. The right hand has to talk to the left hand and vice versa, because everything you buy can be claimed. And I feel like that is a huge cost too. That can cost you a lot of money.
Yes.
Right. Let's jump into tax implications. And before we get off with this segment of our show, we want to say we are not tax CPAs. We are not accountants or attorneys. And so you should also speak to your CPA and or accountant about any of this. These are just some of our experiences and suggestions. When it comes to business move deductions, what are some things that we should know about, and when should we talk to a tax professional?
I would say as soon as you start moving, you should start thinking about the taxes that you're going to incur from moving from one state to another. Now, as far as talking to a tax professional, I will say it depends on what your situation is. Some people have that CPA, that tax professional, that regardless of wherever they live at, they know they're sending their stuff back to that one person to handle things. If you're that person, I would, as soon as you know you're moving, reach out and ask them what it is that they may need for your taxes, and make that checklist and start gathering what it is that you have. If you're that person that just uses like H&R Block or something for it, you may be able to reach out to them now and ask them some questions about it. But that's where I also say just keep everything, keep every receipt, keep every invoice, because you don't know what you may or may not need. But as soon as you know, I would start thinking about taxes, start reaching out, start figuring out what it is that you're going to need. And as you go through that process, if you gather that stuff, it's going to make that tax season a lot easier. I will tell you, the first few years when I sat down at tax season, and here I am going through all of my files and all of my emails and all of these pieces of paper because I didn't keep track of things very well. Like, it was a headache. And I was like, this is too much, man. I may not do this anymore. So gather that stuff as you come across it. As far as for reimbursement things, I will say, you cannot double dip. So whatever the military reimburses you for, you cannot claim on your taxes. Okay. Listen, tax fraud is not a reason for jail. Okay. If we're going to jail, it's going to be a Dateline special. It's going to be an HBO miniseries. It's going to be for a good reason. Moving fraud, tax fraud, not a great reason. Okay. So don't be there trying to double dip. If they audit you, you get audited by the IRS and they discover that, there is a lot of repercussions that can come down. You don't want any part of that. So just don't do it. And then also take a look at Schedule C, especially if you're self-employed. You may be able to claim some of the stuff that wasn't reimbursed by the military on your Schedule C, but again, talk to your tax professional about your situation. It may or may not be worth claiming depending on where you're at, but that's why everybody needs a really good tax professional.
Right. I was just going to ask you if you had a hack, your number one reimbursement hack. And I think it's just document and store all your receipts. That's what we've been talking about.
Documentation.
You use maybe a different tool other than Google that you would suggest?
So I have an app that I use for some of that documentation. It's called Stride. It's a yellow with a big squiggly S in it. But it's a place where I can put in all my mileage. I can put in all my income. I can put in all of my expenses. So it kind of keeps track of what that tax implication for me is going to be. And what I love about it is those receipts and those invoices, I can upload them there and attach it to that expense. So that way, when I need everything, I just click the export button and it goes to my lady. So I love that app. The Google Drive is a really great thing when you can be able to drop things in there. Even if you after you pay something, open up, your email, take a screenshot of that invoice and then go drop it directly into a Google file. That's, specifically listed. It's easy to give access to that Google folder to your tax person. That way they have everything there. Just label everything well. Don't have it listed as invoice 1, invoice 2, invoice 3. Label what it is to help them out. But yeah, the biggest thing for anybody really is that documentation when it comes to moving, when it comes to taxes, is being sure that you have everything that you need. It's going to make the process easier, and it's going to help you be able to get the most back from the military and from the government.
I love that. So now let's jump into the actual move. So we've given you guys some really great tips and strategies around money and make sure you maximize the amount you can get back in several different ways. I want to jump into the actual move because I know from experience, this is one of the most stressful parts of moving. You moving your family, your member is doing all of their out processing, which is 20 pages of a checklist. Go to the library, go to the theater, check out. What is that? All these little things that you have to go do. And a lot of times the spouse is left with making sure that things are getting prepared for the home. And I will say from my experience, my business always comes super last because I'm worried about the family unit. And so what are some strategic business relocation hacks or things we can do before the actual move within time if we get time to do it?
So the biggest thing will be to research. If you know where you're going to go ahead and start researching what that state requires for establishing a business. Is there anything that you can do before arriving? Are there forms that you have to print out and actually physically sign that you can go ahead and get those done and get them ready to submit? And then I would take a look at also that the reimbursement from the military, go ahead and print off the form for your service and see what it is that they require. And then like as you have that expense, you can easily fill it into that form and be able to have your packet good to submit as soon as you arrive on ground. I think those are probably two of the biggest things when it comes to preparing for your move. And then also, what do you have to physically do to move your business? Like, are you that person that has equipment and you need a third party? Can you start researching, getting quotes on what that's going to cost? Do you need specific insurance to relocate things? You can start getting quotes on that as well. There's a lot that you can research before the actual physical move that can help you get through that process of moving or to help you easily get more established quicker once you get to that new location.
I love that. I love that. I think a lot of what our conversation has been like about is about preparation.
Yes.
There has to be some type of preparation because then when you get to where you're going, you're going to feel really all over the place. Or the day of the move, you're going to feel unprepared. How about during the move? You know, I know that for me, I'm a service-based business, always have been with my PR business and with AMSE. What are some of the things we can do during the move? I know with clients and products and services,
Mhm.
it is so vital, especially if you have current customers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it depends on what your clientele is and what your business is. Is it product versus service? You know, one of the things that I love that I see with a lot of military spouses is that when they're moving, they give their clients a peek behind the curtain as to what military life is like. And so I love seeing on their business social media like their business stuff getting packed up and seeing the moving truck and then like seeing their road trip happening and then like seeing them like at their new place and then getting that glimpse of what being a small business owner actually is. So it's them at the computer and it's the reel of this depressing music and it's just like one more form I got to fill out that wasn't included in the list. And so I love seeing that behind the scenes thing. And I think if you have clients that aren't military, it gives them that like, oh, this is what my person has to go through. And if they are military clients, then they're resonating with you about like, yes, I remember having to do that and having to do this. And so it brings in that connection point. So I love being able to see that. I think being able to let your clients know as soon as you are moving, especially, and again, it depends on what your business is. I see photographers that will announce it early saying like, hey, this is, it's that rush. This is your last chance to get in with me. I'm not taking clients after May because we're moving in June and I got to break stuff down. I love being able to see them reestablish at their next location of like, hey, we just arrived to Fort Campbell, and they do their launch and they're in all of the things advertising and marketing and all of that. And so I love being able to see business owners just kind of share that journey because as other business owners, like, it's also that it's not just us feeling this pain and suffering and the suck. It's all of us. And we're able to bond over that connection of it.
Yeah. And I will say, like, for me, and we did a podcast on PCSing business like a year or two ago. And everything still holds true. Like the preparation is key, letting your clients know, letting people know what's going on because they feel like they're part of the journey and you're just not leaving them hanging, and you want to communicate. Hey, I'm not going to have Wi-Fi because I'm on a flight, or I'm not going to have this because I'm in a hotel. My emails, will be 48-hour delayed or anything like that. Like that type of communication is key. I go and break that down through our PCSing podcast that I did. So I'll drop that in here for those of you that are listening and need like a little roadmap with a lot more details that includes AI and automation and stuff like that too. Now we're landing We want to make sure we've landed strong. We're at the new base. We've prepared. We did the thing during the move. What are some of the things we need reestablishing our business in a new location?
So, any registrations that you need reestablishing with your new state, especially if you moved out of state into a new state, you need to now like establish your business in Virginia. You need to reestablish it in Texas, wherever you are. You have to Google, registering business in whatever state, and it pops up. You got to click on it. You got to double check that your name is available. You got to pay that registration fee, put in your address, like all the things. So the biggest thing is just reestablishing legally your business. You may also need to take a look at taxes. If you sell a product, if you sell a service, and charging taxes, and what does that look like? Do you need to move something, with the IRS or with city taxes, state taxes? Everybody wants a piece of their tax money. So you got to fill out all those additional forms for that as well. And then again, just getting your packet together to submit to the military so that way you can be reimbursed for those expenses. So that way all of those fees aren't an additional financial burden to you and to your family for having to relocate your business.
Right. I would add the community research, right? So
Yeah.
start networking in your area, like you mentioned with the photographer.
Mhm.
They did it before they left. Now they're in the new space. The Facebook is the go-to. Find the Facebook group in your local area. Start talking about your business. Let people know that what you do, who you serve, and start getting to know the local area, the local community, as far as the military and the civilian community, to see where you can start gaining more traction, get more clients, and getting involved to continue your business. Because at the end of the day, we still got to keep making that money. You know what I mean? So I think that's a really big part of it as well. All right. Now I want to dive into this moment. I would love for you to share your Facebook group, talk a little bit about that, because I feel like that's a huge resource.
Yeah, so my group, it's PCS Like a Pro dash Your Smooth Move. And so that group, again, it came about back in, so I want to say February 2019. So I started advocacy work in the fall of 2018, and then realized a couple months later there was this gap in education happening. And so that's where the group was then formed and established. And so the big goal around that group was, again, the regulations and the policies. That you ask in a spouse group, hey, we're moving, and we're told X, Y, and Z, and you get 12 different answers. And so it's like, well, which one is actually right? And so the goal behind the group was, here is what the regulation states, and you should set your expectations to the regulation. So if it's something that's better than that, that company goes above and beyond, then, extra gravy, you're golden. But if that company is lacking, you have regulation to say, hey, you need to be doing this. This is what the regulation says. This is what you agreed to. You need to do it. And so it was around that big need for just education. And so the group, everybody asks all the questions that you could ever imagine. We get a lot of business questions in there too, as a great resource of people saying, hey, I'm moving my business. Who has had experience doing X, Y, and Z, or who has experience moving whatever to the state? We get some saying, hey, I'm moving overseas to Italy or to Germany. What does the SOFA agreement say about having a home-based business? And that's a whole nother story too.
The whole nother podcast.
Yes. But it's just become this amazing resource that our community has really helped grow and foster together. So I add all the regulation stuff that I can find in there, so that way people can easily go find them. You're not on Google pulling a regulation from 2015 when it was updated last month. So all the current regulations are in there for people to be able to find, for them to be able to reference. And then we just have the collective knowledge of our community of experiences that people share in there as well.
I think that is so powerful. I mean, and that's why I started the Association of Military Spouse Entrepreneurs, that there are resources, but they're not conducive to our lifestyle, and like not really giving us the answers. They're just giving us the whole go around the bush situation and figure it out. And I think that's what I know that's what I really love about your group, is people are sharing their experiences, shortcuts, real life information. And it's not transactional. It's like, I want you to do good because this happened to me, and I want everybody to do better. And, that coming from a place of serving in that capacity is really so important in our community. And that's why you do the work you do. That's why I do the work I do, because we don't want people to experience what we experienced. When I first started
Mhm.
my business, I was just talking to somebody today. I follow this girl on TikTok. I think her name is Kayla. And she has been just sharing every aspect of military life, the good, the bad, the ugly. She doesn't care what she looks like on screen. I mean, she's gorgeous anyway, but she's not like showing up like, hey, this and that. She's serving a community with the platform she has with her experience. And so many people are learning
Mhm.
from it. And so I applaud you because it is a lot. Advocacy work is a lot. It goes unpaid. And managing a group like that, and giving the resources comes out of a purpose and passion. And so I think anybody who's listening to this, most of us as military spouses are creating a business out of a pain point and an experience that we've had, or something that we would love or appreciate, a skill or a talent that we've acquired. And so build community around it, because I think that's so important. And you have this community backing you up when you're
Mhm.
standing up for us and saying things that many of us would not say in public, because we don't want to ruffle feathers, because we don't want to look like the bad guy. And you're like, I don't care. These are all facts. This is all written down.
Mhm.
Because, like I said, I feel like even spouses who are just new to moving, they think this is just normal. There's no, that I can't speak up for myself. I can't ask questions because the military feels like this huge authoritative figure, or
Mhm.
with all these forms and things like that we can't. And you're putting the power back into the military spouse and saying, no, these are rules and regulations, and this is not acceptable, and read this and do this, right? And so the
Mhm.
more that we speak about that, and the platform that you've provided with your group gives people the education, the resource, and also the empowerment to speak up for themselves and their family. So I just wanted to say, I think that that's just admirable, honestly.
Well,
Like,
thank you.
it's a lot of work. And a lot of work having a Facebook group. Y'all think it's easy. It ain't easy out here in these streets, managing Facebook groups and complaints and dropping all this stuff in. Like, it's a lot.
It definitely is a lot. And listen, that's why we've got group rules. You will hear some of my friends say, "Oh, Megan's got this great group, but she runs it like a tight ship." And I do, because I want it to be I don't want it to be one of those groups where you just go and complain. And yes, we have people that vent in there, and I want you to be able to have a safe space to vent. But I don't want it to just be where we just go and complain and nothing good comes out of it. I want it to be this resource. Come and vent, share your problem, share your issue, and then you're going to get some actionable things you can do to improve it, to get through it, to figure it out, support for it. So that way either you get through what you're going through now, or it's not going to happen again in a future move. So that's what I really hope people are getting out of it, and that people come looking for.
They do. All right, now I want to talk about something really exciting. I want to talk about your report. Tell us, numbers don't lie. Data and numbers tell a story. And so I would love for you to share more about PCS Like a Pro's impact report, how it serves military families, and all of the things that you have discovered in the last year.
Yes. So this is the second year that we've done it. I call it the State of PCSing Survey. One of the things that I have found during this process too is that there is no dedicated survey to just our PCS experiences. There's a lot of big national nonprofit organizations that put out big surveys, and PCSing is like a couple of questions. And then Transcom has their customer satisfaction survey for like how your move went right after your move. But it's not collective data to show what has been happening, what is happening, and what needs to continue to change. And so that's where I was just like, we need to start collecting some of this, and something that's more tangible than just like my Google Doc of like whenever I talk to a family and the issues that I hear and all of that stuff, like something that's a little bit more collective. And so that's where the survey came from. And so of the 2025 survey, there's a lot of things I want to say I'm surprised about. but I'm not, because there's still systemic issues that we are finding. One of the things that we found is that 70% of folks reported that their household goods weight was not adequate enough for their family. So listen, let me tell you, those household good weights were set in 1989, and we are in 2025. We have families that have more than their two kids. We have homes that are double the size of what we had in 1989. Our furniture is still just as heavy as it was in 1989. And so we have seen that the military with our household goods weight has not changed and caught up to what current society times are. And then, it's like, but oh, you get pro gear and all of that. So service members, they get their 2,000 pounds of pro gear. Spouses, we only get up to 500. And here's the deal with our pro gear. So our pro gear, when we talk about it, our business things, right? Our stuff that we need to move for our business. But you have to go to the transportation office now, and you have to declare what your profession is. You have to fill out this form, declare your profession. You have to declare what it is you are claiming as pro gear, and then they approve or deny the items. And so it may not be everything that you need. And one of the exclusions is furniture. And if you're like me, I'm like, well, I have a desk, and I have a bookshelf with all of my files, and I've got a computer chair and my laptop. Like, so what spouse pro gear can I claim? And so now
I will say, I literally look. I moved here over a year ago, and I have still some boxes because we retired. And I opened the box, and it was a lampshade, and it was like the big box like this, like the big old one. It was a lampshade, and the entire box was full of paper, like mounds and just packed in. And I'm like, all of this went towards my weight.
yes.
It's wild. It's
Yes.
wild.
Yeah. So seeing that was a big one. Financial entitlements is another big one that we see as being an issue year after year. Not everything, I love the line that we hear a lot. You get a free move. They move you for free and everything. And it's like, it's like healthcare. We get free healthcare, all of those things. But what we find is that, especially this year, we had a significant out of pocket expenses that families had to come up with. We went through this contract that failed in the first half of the year, and then we're in, the second half. But basic things like a rental car. When families have to either are going overseas and they have to ship their only car ahead of time, but they still have to get to work and they still have to get to wherever. Or they have two cars, and so they're trying to balance shipping their second car, and they still need a rental car that's going to be out of pocket. Pet expenses, while I'm very thankful that we finally have something to help cover that to an extent, when you have multiple pets, or if you're going overseas, it doesn't cover the full expense. And so we find a lot of those types of financial strain on families. The PPM reimbursement this year was much lower than we saw in previous years. And so families, especially with the contract we had at the beginning of this year, people doing the PPM for that peace of mind and that control, and to ensure they had their stuff to be able to set up their business to continue making money, they took a hit moving their stuff to come out of pocket to make sure they had it. And then the other big thing that we saw was just the lack of support programs and resources for families PCSing. It's, you contact your transportation office, and it's that's on Military OneSource, but Military OneSource can sometimes be hard to navigate. There's so much information on there. You don't know if what you're reading is what you really need. We hear a lot that was, you go through the DPS and it's self-counseling, but you don't understand what you're reading because you don't have somebody there to ask it. Moving your business, there isn't, a wide known, and with what you're doing with AMSE, being able to help spouses, but there isn't, a DOD entity that you can go and talk to that says, how can I move my business to be able to get that support? And so we're finding that families are just kind of out there, not knowing. And so that's, again, why PCS Like a Pro is there to kind of fill that gap as that resource.
Right. And isn't that a shame?
It is.
Honest, isn't that a shame that you
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, that's our other podcast episode we'll have at some point. Back about taking care of families. Mhm. Mhm. Yes. Yes, absolutely. I will have it on my website by next week. So PCSLikeAPro.org, there's a tab at the top that says the survey. You'll be able to click that, and then I'll have the link there that says the 2025 report. And I will have all of the things there for you to go and look at and to see. Yes. As soon as you know that you are moving, give your clients that time to either order what they need to order, either get their pictures taken, whatever it may be. If you're a digital service, it may not be that big of a deal, but you can let them know, like, hey, I want to have a month off because we're going to be in the process of moving. But as soon as you know, start that conversation. So the app I mentioned earlier, Stride, is my go-to thing. Like I said, I can track everything in there, my expenses, my income, put in all of my receipts and invoices for that documentation. I absolutely love that app. And then the Google Drive also. That should be standard. Make a list of your business equipment that you have that is moving so you can ensure that everything shows up as well. You can add that into your high value list that you should be making, and then double check your documentation that you need to have on hand. Don't let it get packed in a box that you're not going to be able to find for 6 months. Make sure you have what you need. Put it in your PCS binder so that way you can hand carry it, get stuff set up, and those reimbursement packets submitted as soon as you land. You can find it again on the website, PCSLikeAPro.com. At the top, there is a little tab that says the shop. It's got the digital download binder. It's got a kids download binder. And then if you want to have fun, there's some fun t-shirts on there too. Oh, I wasn't prepared for that one. Oh gosh. I think I am in uh oh gosh. I will say right now for me, I will say I'm in my kind of unapologetic era of things. Uh, for the longest time, it was one of those things when you're an advocate, you shouldn't be making money, right? You should be just doing the things for the people. And while I did that for many years on this journey, there became a part where it's just like, I can make a little bit of money while still being an advocate. And so that's where my PCS binder was kind of born as. There's another story to that where I had to get legal people involved in it being stolen. It's great. Another podcast episode. But being able to sell that to cover the coffee that I buy for families when I go see moves, so it's not coming out of my own pocket. Some other things that I do, some collaborations that I do, that it's okay to be able to make money while being an advocate, and that it doesn't take away or downgrade what you do as an advocate. And so it took me a long time to get to this point and to be able to step in to see that that's okay. And I will tell you, when I saw Moni a couple weeks ago, like, she breathed that into me, and I was just like, Whew, okay. Like I've been slowly stepping into it, but like after that conversation, I was like, all right, like gloves off. We're doing this. We are handling it. We can be an advocate. We can still make money, and two things can coexist and be true at the same time. Mhm. Yes. Listen, I will make time any day for Moni. I love listen, I love being here, and I love that every conversation that we get to have, whether it's about PCSing in business, or whether it's about what appetizer we're ordering at the restaurant. Uh, it is the best. So listen, anytime you need something, I got you. More podcasts. You just just send me the invite. It's on my calendar. It's done. Mm, I lost you, Moni. Welcome to the
What
Megan
happened?
Show. I don't know.
Oh, let me stop it.